Hey, we are 3 minutes from the top of the start, and I want to welcome you. I'm so glad you're here. We're going to make some active use of the chat. And so we got 3 minutes. If you want to drop in the chat who you are, where you are, and what you do, please do. You came early, so I want to welcome you to a little bit of informal networking. And I'll change to my fancy schmancy webinar glasses, and we'll get started. All right. Thanks so much. We're so glad you're here. We've got people from all across the country, old friends and new. Welcome or welcome back. By all means, please drop a note in the chat and let us know who you are and what you do. And if you've got any specific questions, and we'll be getting started in just 2 minutes at the top of the hour. So welcome. We're really glad you're here. If you are here, let me know that you can hear and see. You can see the screen and that you can hear me. So yes. All righty, we will do that. Hang on for a second. Excellent. Ah, boy. Great. And looking good. All right. Anyone else? If you're here. All right, Lisa, great. Jerry Ann, welcome. So glad to see you. Glad you're here. All is well. All right, we are 1 minute to the top of the hour and we will get started. So excited to do this. We'll introduce our topic and then we'll be away to the races. And less than a minute, we're counting down. So glad you're with us. We've got some exciting topics and we want you to make sure that you come away with things that are going to make a difference for you. So buckle up, get comfortable, bring your questions, please. And we're going to get started. It is time. So welcome. I'm Judy Bratt, CEO of Summit Insight, and I'm your co-host of this government contracting webinar series. A special welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. If this is your first webinar with us, please drop a number 1 in the chat. We're going to have a lot of fun with the chat, do some polls, do some back and forth. And so a special welcome to you. I hope you have honestly the best time you've had in a government contracting webinar ever. And that bar may be low, but we're really going to enjoy our time together. Here's who Summit Insight is and why I've invited you to join us. Summit Insight is a professional services firm, and for you, and I hope for us, marketing and sales are acts of service. So that's why we're bringing you this webinar series and some of the other things that we put out into the world, sharing great content and bringing people together. Our company works with established federal contractors, but whether you're a fit for us or not, we'll be sharing some links to free resources and also places where you can pick up a free chapter of my book, link to the book and the workbook, and even explore whether or not your company is at a place that we might be a fit to work together. All that being said, let's get into what we came here to do. Here's what we're going to cover today. Remember to drop your questions in the chat or send those to Heather Herbine. Heather Herbine is co-founder of Transcendent Marketing, and she is my moderator and partner here today. She's home of Marketing Masters, where they combine best practices and tested methodologies to create what it takes to reach your sales and marketing goals from the start. They are part of what help bring us together in doing the marketing, email, and outreach. They're your one-stop shop for all sales and marketing things, and they have a terrific track record with companies who are reaching their federal buyers and growing to reach their federal goals. So they do everything from digital to marketing to social to cold calling and contact relationship management setup as well. Their key differentiator is they can open doors for you in the federal arena with the key players you're looking to connect with. Heather, say hello. Heather's
Hi,
going to be
everybody.
Heather's going to be
Great to
running our
be here.
polls, and she'll also be making sure that questions that you have reach us. So drop your questions in the chat. And if we can't get to your question during the webinar live, we'll make sure that our presenters follow up with you. All right. At the end, everyone who is here will get a copy of the recording. Give us 24 hours for processing, and we'll have links to upcoming events and resources. So here's what we're going to cover: how to maximize your return on investment from association memberships and events, which associations you might want to join, and how many of them it really takes to be successful in the federal arena. You'll learn how to choose the right events for you, what to do to maximize your return on investment, and how to make the most of matchmaking and conferences. And then we'll close with resources, next steps, and Q&A. But we're going to start with a really in-depth case study. Get out something to write with and something to write on, because at the end, I'm going to ask you, what one action are you committed to take as a result of spending this time together? So get ready to take action, and we'll share those ahas and those things that we're going to commit to move forward. Real quick, let's see who's here in the room. Heather, launch our poll, please. We're going to get a sense of what's on your mind, what stage you're at in the federal arena, what you're really thinking of. All right. So, real quick, how many people within your company are involved in federal sales and business development? What's your company's annual revenue? Scale of 1 to 10, how important is federal business to your plans to grow the company? Would you consider outside federal sales training? Would you like to hear from our speakers, me, Carrie Ann, and Tom? So we're going to leave this poll open throughout, and we'd just love it if you could take a second and fill it out now and point and click as we go. And are you able to do that? Let's see here. Relaunch polling. All right. Here we go. Got it. Okay. And take a look. And I'm going to leave this open for 60 seconds, and then we'll move on with content. So, all right. Thanks. Point and click. Excellent. Want to know you're on the right place. So, how many people in your company are doing sales and business development? A little bit of annual revenue. How important is federal business to your plans to grow? Would you consider outside federal sales training? And do you want to talk to any of us? And you might want to wait till the end to make up your mind about that. But there we are. Please do vote. So, with that, it's my pleasure to introduce one of our two speakers who's going to start us out. Carrie Ann Williams and I have met through our participation in the Society of American Military Engineers. Carrie Ann has been in Maryland for almost her whole life, but started out in Ohio. She's a person of the word. She's a trained communicator. She studied communications for many years. She launched her own company and has run Adana Consulting for the last 7 years. And for the last 8, she has had tremendous involvement in many stages of the Society of American Military Engineers. Adana Consulting is involved in communications for marketing and proposal writing, and you'll have a little bit more of a snapshot of that at the end. I invited Carrie Ann to join us to talk about what it means to effectively make an investment in a professional association in the federal arena, and what you do, what you don't do, and what people experience when they make good choices for association involvement. Carrie Ann, take it away.
Thank you so much, Judy. I'm really excited to be with you guys today and share with you about my very favorite networking organization, the Society of American Military Engineers. I actually joined them in 2005 as a young member, and probably like many of you that are involved in organizations, it came because someone at my office said, "Hey, you're coming with me to this event, and I want to introduce you to this program and you see if you like it or not. At my very second SAME meeting, I was one of the speakers because my firm happened to be a sponsor of that program. And the woman that brought me said, "Oh, Carrie Ann, you should do it. Get up there and tell them about the company." So I was just thrown right into it, and it was one of the most amazing experiences that I've had as I've grown in my career and grown in the society. They've been such a stronghold in the work that we do, both where previously when I was with companies and now as on Donna Consulting, so many of our clients and our teaming partners and our friends like Judy come through being involved in this society. So I think you're driving, right, Judy? Yeah. So the Society of American Military Engineers in 2020 actually celebrated our centennial. The society was founded in 1920, which is just an amazing thing to think about, in all of the world that we've experienced in our 2020. They were founded on the heels of the First World War and another pandemic, and they've stayed strong throughout this 100 years, and now we're going into our next centennial. So because 2020 was a little bit of a hiccup, we are still celebrating our centennial throughout the world. SAME has 30,000 or more members across the world. Several posts are in the US, but we also have posts in Europe and the UK that support our military and our industry throughout the world. So it's quite a vibrant society, and each post has done something to celebrate the centennial in the last year or looking into this year, because some things had to be rethought as they were planning them for last year. But the Society of American Military Engineers, I have our mission and our vision up here, and I think they speak for themselves. But one thing that we as a society are really distinctly different from other industry organizations is because we're made up of not just military and not just engineers. In fact, I am neither military nor an engineer. I am a communications English business major and never served, but as part of this society, I interface with folks that have and that are still active in the military or government civilians. And then our industry makeup is engineers, architects, scientists, all sorts of business development and communications professionals, everyone that's involved in building a federal contract, generally, if they're in the built industry, are part of SAME. So it's a society where instead of focusing on a unique aspect of an industry like architecture or engineering or project management professionalism, all of those folks are part of SAME, but we're all there to support this mission. We're all there as members to support the society and our leadership and dedicated to the national security of our country. And so that's one thing that really makes SAME stand out as a distinct organization among all the ones that Tom's going to talk to you about how to choose an organization to be part of. SAME is not the only one that I am involved with locally here in Maryland. I'm part of Urban Land Institute and the Society for Marketing Professional Services. I've worked with the AIA and ACEC, and they're all valuable and bring a lot to the table. But in terms of federal relationship building, SAME has been hands down one of the most interactive and engaging organizations. And on the next slide, I think I'm talking a little bit about what we do as a society. So SAME has lots of opportunity to participate at the local level and at a national level. So one of the things that as you're investigating joining an organization, you can certainly join, but activating your membership is what makes it powerful. So being an active participant, attending your post meetings or chapter meetings or whatever local part of your organization exists. And then if there is a national organization, then attending events at the larger level where there's higher level programming, where there's broader networking, where there's a lot more technology transfer and information sharing. Those are some of the best places for you to go to get education and information about whatever your profession is. And then at the local level, again, you're doing that at maybe a smaller scale, but you're really interacting with your peers that are in your region. For SAME, we've got stuff actually happening this week. It's our Capital Week federal agency briefings, and that has traditionally been about a 200 or 300 person event. This year, because it's virtual, there's 900 people attending. And so they've done a lot to, help us interact and recreate some of that networking experience. But that just shows you that at different levels of an organization, you can get different value out of participating at different levels. For SAME, I've been on the board of our Baltimore Post since 2010. And being on the local board is really dynamic. You're involved in all the board stuff, right? Sending out emails, getting speakers to speak, making sure your membership is coming to events and that they know where the parking is. There's all sorts of local level things that are really hands-on. And as a volunteer member, that could be really appealing to someone. So if you're a member of an organization and want to do some things that you might not do in your everyday life, volunteering as a committee member or on the board can really provide that value. But then again, at the national level, here we are experiencing 900 people that we can interact with. And on the national board, where I for SAME served as an elected director in 2013 to 2015, and I'm currently the regional vice president for our North Atlantic region, which also includes being on the national board. We're dealing with a lot more high-level stuff. How do you manage the budget of a 30,000 person organization? And what do the posts need to support their membership? What's our strategic plan? I've worked mostly in-house at engineering firms that were medium-sized businesses. So still a lot of moving parts. My company now is a small woman-owned business. So being involved in strategic planning at the national level for a 30,000 person organization is an experience I wouldn't get in my professional life. So something like that can also be appealing as you want to grow. We call it at SAME, we call it your SAME career, where you start out as a member and maybe you're even a young member where you're joining in your 20s and 30s, and then you evolve in the organization to hold different levels of membership and engagement for yourself. On the next slide, these are some of the things I was just talking about. Being active in your membership, I would suggest, and I know Tom's going to touch on this too, a lot of organizations have many, many ways to be an active participant. And so for SAME, some of our draws for people to be a member, include that network. Our network is unsurpassed in access to government decision makers if you work in the MilCon or civil works arena. That access is extremely valuable for SAME, and being involved in the industry side and the government side, everyone is networked and connected. And again, because we're there for that same mission, it makes it really valuable and impactful. So that aside, that hands down is why people join, is to get that network and to get that information, just like what they're sharing this week on the forecasts and budgets and what's the world going to look like in 2021 and beyond. That's great. But if you want more out of it, if you want to eventually be doing business with your friends, then and getting engaged in these organizations at a different level. So as I mentioned, being part of the local board is something that's really dynamic, very hands-on. There's a lot of moving parts and there's a role for everybody. So if we have folks that are really interested in communications and outreach, they can jump on a communications committee and help with email and registration and all of those fun things. Or they can help with programming and use their network as a business development person to contact their government clients and have them come speak. So there's a lot of opportunity to branch out and expand your own personal development through this volunteer opportunity. But we also talk about, there's a lot of STEM activity and working with as a mentor for high school kids or even younger or college kids. As SAME has a huge scholarship program and a camp program, summer camps at different military academies for students to come and learn about STEM careers and activities. So if that's something that really energizes you as a human and as a member, And you don't want to be planning meetings, you don't want to be sending out emails, but you really want to nurture that next generation of engineers. Finding a STEM committee and getting engaged that way can really be helpful. So there's any number of possibilities within any society or any organization to really engage yourself as a volunteer in different ways so that you're not doing it, we always talk about having a time commitment. So if you're a board member, that's a significant time commitment, but not everyone has that, but you still want to be involved. So maybe you just review scholarship applications, or maybe you're on a focus group to figure out what the program should be for that year. And it takes you 20 minutes and take a survey or something like that. So different societies offer different levels of engagement for their members as in addition to attending events and just being part of the society. We also have a wonderful publication that comes out as a magazine every other month. And then we have lots of other communications so that technical exchange is happening, whether you're at a meeting or not, you're still getting a pretty peer-reviewed technical journal from the society. And like I said, that relationship building and building trusted partnerships are really where the value of your membership comes into play. But you only get that if you're actively participating and part of the conversation. And so I think that's it. Judy, next
Well,
slide.
Carrie Ann, I want to ask you the really nosy question. If you had to look back over the last 5 years, what percentage of your revenue would you just guess has roots in relationships you've developed in just Sammy? Just rough
More
guess,
than
gut
more
feel.
than 75%.
Holy jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's surprising to me that I would think that the marketing society that we are part of would be more of a revenue generating source for us. But it turns out the Society of American Military Engineers, whether it's through direct relationships or referrals, most everything has come from them.
Wow. And so you can see some of the services that Carrie Ann's company provides, everything to do with proposal writing, but especially if I understand it, proposal writing in architecture and engineering and construction and facilities, everything that goes on in, under, or around a federal building or facility. That's the community that Society of American Military Engineers brings together. Whether you're business is small or your company is large and you also need relationships with small companies. But Sammy is unique in that it is a strong gathering place for the federal buyers and at what I call the players at all the layers, as well as the industry partners. And
Mhm.
it's remarkable because one of the big things that people struggle with is, how do I get on a military base? How do I get in front of the buyers? The cool thing about SAMI, it's a national, structurally a chapter structured organization, but they call them posts because they are on the military bases. They meet typically at one of the facilities or on the bases a lot of the time. Is that not true, Carrie Ann?
Yes, traditionally, that's how we were set up. More often, in the last several years, we've because of security, meeting for civilians to meet on base is not always feasible. So,
Mhm.
but we're still adjacent to them. And the whole point, as you said, is that industry government engagement. And so even at the local level, we're not always focused on just at the local level, we're not always focused on just federal programs, but if in Maryland, for example, we have a post up at Aberdeen. So a lot of their speakers come from Aberdeen Proving Ground and are sharing about programs and upcoming things going on there. But they also have a really great relationship with the county, Harford County. And so their DPW will come and speak about what's going on in the county because as a lot of our member firms at SAME not only do federal work, but they also support their local communities. So if they're doing, you know, civil design for military installation, they can do civil design for their community where their offices are too. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of crossover in the state local government
Mhm.
as well. So,
So
and
yeah, if your company is doing anything to, if relationships are important to you in building business, which they absolutely are, and everything to do with facilities and construction, if your company, your organization is involved in interior design, in JanSan, janitorial facilities management, landscaping, grounds, building construction, signage, parking, all of these things that relate to a federal facility, civilian or military. Sammy is definitely a relationship, an organization you'd want to be able to consider.
Yeah, and I think just don't think I mentioned I mentioned that I was brought on by my colleague at my old firm. So my previous firms were federal contractors, right? We were engineers that did a lot of work with a lot of state, local, and federal agencies. And to Judy's point there, that I believe no federal work gets done outside of a team, and that your team can really make or break your opportunity to win federal work. If you have the right teaming partners, different firms or different personnel, you can really get in the door a lot faster because your team can support you through all kinds of different capture support and expertise and technical support. So you know, building those teams and having those relationships is really very important. And, SAME and other sister societies for different focuses are also like, that's where you build those relationships, and that's how you can really catapult your federal pursuits.
And volunteering, that 70% figure that Carrie cited, where that comes from. Notice she has been an active volunteer for the entire nearly 8 years that she's been involved as a volunteer at the chapter and the local and the national level. The value of association membership comes not from paying your fees, but from paying your dues. Not from paying your fees, but from paying your dues. They're showing up, being shoulder to shoulder with the people who are doing the work of the community you care about. People see that when Carrie Ann says she's going to do something, she really does something. If she's going to be a volunteer for communication, boy, is that the most kick-ass communication they have ever freaking seen. And so so that means that if you love to golf, then run the golf tournament. You could not pay me enough money to go run the cart. Someone else will do that. The the committees that I get involved in with an association can often end up being ones related to Armed Forces Communications and Electronics Association. I'm a volunteer on the Small Business Virtual Networking Committee. I get to meet people. So find some a volunteer involvement that's aligned with something you love to do and the objectives of your business. Then when those things are aligned, you feel like it's easy to do those things, and people see that in the spirit and the energy that you put into it, and you don't feel like you're being sucked dry. Mom, do I have to? So with that, it's my joy to introduce my longtime friend, Tom Johnson, who is publisher of Set Aside Alert and president of Business Resource Services. He's brings us 30 years of experience in marketing products and services to the federal government. He's negotiated over 100 GSA schedule contracts, far more. And he's also a U.S. Army veteran. Tom, and graduate of Purdue, thank you for your service and for this chance to shine and tell us a little bit more about Set Aside Alert. We've asked you to talk a little bit more about selecting events in particular and making the most of matchmaking. So take it away.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much, Judy, and Carrie Ann. Your presentation was wonderful. I'm working in the background here on the rules that you laid out on how to do good Zoom meetings that we've republished in Set Aside Alert about a month ago. So thank you for that. I'll try and remember to mute and unmute myself at the right times. So there's really a wide variation in the quality of events that are out there in the market now. And some of those are put on by associations and some are put on by private firms that do a lot of trade show kind of thing. And sometimes they're really volunteer efforts, and those are not the specifics that you should be watching for. What you need to watch for is that the event itself hopefully has a continuing history and a reputation. And Carrie Ann's points about SAME certainly fit right into that environment. I've been actively involved in a number of SAME events over the years, spoken at them, exhibited at them, participated in them from Newark chapter, actually the New York chapter at a Newark event, the Philadelphia group, and we were meeting right downtown at that time, Baltimore and a number of those, plus the annual Small Business Conference, which was on Carrie's slide there, and usually occurs in November. And I've attended several of those around the country as well. So SAME certainly has the history and reputation and the kind of thing that you would want to be looking for when you are trying to decide about going to an event or joining an organization. I think part of the value of events is that it has an agency and an association committed to sponsoring that event. Those are the events that, to me, have the greatest value. You know that you're going to have participation from the agency in terms of good matchmaking opportunities. You know you've got the association behind you, and they want to have their best foot being put forward, both to retain your membership, but also to serve the members throughout the year. In my mind, it's best if you could have it in an office facility, but as Carrie mentioned, now is not the time. The officer club kind of events that occur, I'm not sure, if they're sponsored by a trade show operator, oftentimes find that those are not really supported by the local community where the event is being held. And that's why I go back to the point of making sure that there's an agency involved that's committed to this activity, and that preferably there's an industry association involved as well. Make sure that there are exhibitors from a variety of federal agencies and those associations, not just their name plastered on the literature, but that they're actively involved, and preferably in-person events. I haven't found that the virtual events, especially matchmakers, are the kind of thing I want to participate in. And I do a lot of webinars myself, but I just haven't found a way in those events to feel like I'm really linking up with people.
And to be fair, everybody's experiences varies. Ludmilla Parnell, who is small business liaison with General Dynamics, would be jumping up and down going, no, here's how to do it. So one of the things that we're going to wrap up with is sort of compare notes on what we've seen as good, bad, and ugly about the online events, because they are here to stay. Like them or lump them. And you're clearly in the lump them category a little.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree about the long term. I do a number of webinars in both the business world and in my church community. And as you pointed out, the ability to get a large number of members to attend is dramatically different when it's online. And we've had great success that way. But those are primarily, in my mind, for educational events or learning experiences, and not so much where you're trying to market yourself and get yourself in front of people. So we'll see. Maybe we'll all learn and gain more in the future here. I do think that there are a number of events that are specific to an industry, like the association events, and also events that are specific to a certain socioeconomic category in the government contracting environment, which is something that we are very involved in. So if it's an 8A event or a woman-owned event or a HubZone or STV, and it's an industry day, those are going to be good opportunities to get your information out there, because you know that the people on the receiving end are going to be taking a look at the information that you submit, whether it's online, whether it's a capability statement, et cetera. Let's go to the next page if you want, unless we want to talk more about that earlier. When you go to these events, be sure you go prepared. And I've seen in a variety, well, probably pre-COVID, I was probably doing 20 events, many of which are out around the country every year. And you see people coming in who don't have their business cards with them. or they don't have a capability statement, or they can't really give an elevator speech. So if you're going to go attend these events, do a little preparation. Know which agencies are going to be there, which primes are going to be there, which ones you want to reach out to and engage with. Don't waste your time with somebody who is totally unlikely to buy your services or your products. And be thinking in advance what key points you have to offer each of those people. It's good, especially if you know that there are 4 different agencies you want to specifically meet. Have a customized one-page capability statement in hand that you can hand that particular agency and know that it's focused and it'll catch their eye. It's got stuff in there that you've done that they need, that you know by doing a little bit of research in advance, that you've got a leg up on the kinds of services that they're after. And by doing that, you gain a leg up on the other guys walking around who didn't come prepared. Have that 30 to 60-second elevator speech. And don't focus on the fact that you're an STV or an 8A or woman. Focus on what you do. You can follow up with your socioeconomic category afterwards. But what you're trying to get attention on is what specifically you do, what are your unique capabilities, how well you do it, and what kind of experience you've had. Be sure those business cards have your cell number on them and your email address. And I've seen people walk up, give me a card, no information on how to reach back to them. And skip the pretty pictures, please, and the weird paper stock and the different forms and all that kind of stuff, because
The one with the little holes punched in it and going, why? And for anything that is shiny, because you can't write on these things, they
Exactly.
scan badly. Don't get too clever, guys.
Exactly.
Carrie Ann, what do you think? Stand out or stay in the box?
Especially for networking events, yes, make sure it's something people can write on, because at networking events, that's a best practice. Though our business cards are a little bit thicker stock, and so they do stand out, but they're not coated or anything fancy.
This is my friend. I buy a box of these puppies so you can still write on the shiny cards. And I scold everyone who has shiny cards. If I were smart, I would bring a box of Sharpies and be nice and hand them out to people. So I think I've found my inner generosity person now, if and when I come out from under the sofa.
Yeah, I think scannability at least used to be very important. I think people are still scanning. I know that the agency people are still scanning those cards. And you want to make sure that, when it goes through the machine, oftentimes people don't do a whole lot of editing once they've scanned them. So if it's not picking up all of your letters or missing part of your email address, or you've got your email address on the back side instead of the front side, forget it. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, I think it's important to spend a little bit of time, A, finding out who's going to be there, and B, knowing what their specific mission needs and solutions are. And you can do that in a variety of ways. You can go, one of my favorite longtime publications, which is still available electronically from GPO, is the government, oh shoot, I'm going to forget the name of it. The government directory of all the agencies, which gives their mission statement. Oftentimes it has a organization chart in it. So you can say, it's not the Department of Interior that I'm looking for. It's the Park Service or the Bureau of Land Management that's important to me, so that you get down to the people who are going to be actually using your stuff. You want to know where the buying is done for that particular division. National Park Service, whose office theoretically is here, and for a long time had its buying office in Arlington, moved it to Albuquerque a few years ago. So you want to look into this. The Corps of Engineers Harry knows this very well, I'm sure, has regional offices all over the country. And various regions are designated sources for certain kinds of work. So over the years, I've done a lot of work with the North Atlantic group down in Norfolk. And Jack was the small business guy down there for a long time. And he's told me, you know, they were the designated office within the Corps of Engineers for dining hall projects all over the country. If you're doing a dining hall at Fort Lewis, Washington, that job may well be project managed out of Norfolk. Similarly, you know, Leonard Wood has its facilities there, and that may be not the St. Louis office, but perhaps the New Orleans office that works for those, you know, that specific kind of project. Oftentimes also that particular agency may buy for other agencies. So Jack, when he was down at Atlantic, was buying also for VA hospitals and doing a lot of contract management work for VA. So you want to look into how an agency works, where it does its buying, and what you do that is unique and your outreach focus.
And some agencies are really, really good at doing buying. And so sometimes you'll get, say, a district in division or district executive in the Army Corps of Engineers, and they are real good at mopping up fourth quarter spend. And suddenly all kinds of spending is going through that office, and the stuff is going somewhere else. And you only find that out when you build relationships with people. And so you really need to find that out and talk it up. But it's much more helpful when you do your research in the Federal Procurement Data System or beta.sam.gov. You've looked at some of the answers to these questions. And then sort of like Bob Woodward investigating Watergate, you're asking confirm or deny. You know, put a hat on or don't, sneeze or don't. But look at the list. Where's the where would I be if you were me? Where would you be starting? And if you don't know how to do that, you'll want to come to the webinar that we're hosting at the fourth Thursday of next month. I'll say about which more in a moment. But Tom, you're absolutely right. Come with smart questions, because so many of the small business specialists that are showing up at matchmaking, and a lot of the time it's people in the small business job, which, by the way, they are not your buyers.
Right.
And 80% of the conversations that a small business specialist hears are, hi, I'm a service disabled 8A woman-owned business. What do you all do? It's awful. So when you come with a really specific question that is geared to the research into what that agency does, to citing specific line items out of their forecast, that, remember, your objective is usually get another meeting. It's the only objective. You're not going to sell anything. You do want to be sufficiently engaged that out of matchmaking, they go, yes, we agree to follow up with you on this date and time. That's a win.
That's for sure. I think it's also important to find out if that agency uses IDIQ contracts a lot. And the Corps, frankly, is one of the big players in that environment. So many of the Corps of Engineers contracts are 5-year MATOCs or multiple award task order contracts. And if you're out there looking to, you know, be a plumber or paint houses or do flood cleanup, you better find out if they've already got a 5-year contract with somebody else and there's 4 years yet to run, and find out when that thing is going to come up for renewal so you can be in line next time, but don't waste any more time on it this year. Okay.
So Tom, I love Set Aside Alert for, I want to say almost everything besides the Set Aside Alert. You have great, incredible editorial. You have invitations to great educational events and resources as well. So in addition to, you're going to get notices of set-asides, what are the other things that people should keep in mind when they're considering the resources of what Set Aside Alert can bring them?
Well, I think we've been around for 30 years, and during that process have learned a lot about everything from acronyms and buzzwords to things like IDIQ and when they play an important part. So by reading Set Aside Alert, which is a bi-weekly publication, we're focused on only the small business community and only federal opportunities. We do have the daily email of all those opportunities in a really quick read format, which, by the way, is one way to find out when IDIQs or term contracts are coming up and whether they're set aside. It's also another way to pick up contacts at individual buying offices throughout the country so that you can reach out to those people and engage with them about your unique capabilities and what you're looking for to help. We also do a number of webinars, mentor-protege, teaming agreements. As I mentioned, Jack, as a small business specialist down in Norfolk, has been on with us a couple of times. So we do a variety of things, all of which are focused on small businesses in the federal community.
And Tom, you have a deal for us. Heather, would you drop the link in the chat? We've got a link that Tom has offered if somebody is interested in exploring Set Aside Alert. We've made it easy for you to do that. So Heather's going to drop that in the chat right now. And so you can grab that link. And so Tom's contact information is here. And Tom, are you also looking for editorial content? What kind of stories should somebody come and tell you and Alice about or news that would be of general interest to your readers?
The couple of things that would be valuable to us are information on conferences. We have currently, our calendar runs a page and a half, and that's events from now through the end of the year, all over the country in a variety of settings. Some of those are educational, some are networking and matchmaking contacts, and some are association meetings. So National A-Day Association, the HubZone National Council, the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, which Judy and I are very involved in. All of those events we post there, and we're happy to post other people's events at no cost. The other thing that we always appreciate also is we have generally a whole page devoted to teaming opportunities, where you can find other companies who are looking for partners, looking for primes, or looking for a mentor or a protege. And so you can submit at any time, no cost, don't have to be a subscriber, submit a 75 or 100 word, kind of a classified ad, if you want to think of it that way, a little paragraph on what you're looking for in a teaming partner, what skills you're offering, and of course your contact information so people can get back.
Excellent. I looked as I was preparing this and said, what are the other things we promised to cover? And so I have some thoughts, and I welcome a little bit of once around the room with my guests on this. People ask me, how many associations should I join? And coming back to your ability to pay your dues, with most small businesses, our ability to participate actively, not just financially, but temporally, in an association, probably no more than 3 at the most that you're able to actively enter. The ones I'm in right now, I'm National Veteran Small Business Coalition. I have both national and some regional volunteer gig with that one. Armed Forces Communications Electronics Association, and I'm a new member of SAMI, Society of American Military Engineers. And so those are the 3 that are bubbling up for me that are my major involvement. I've got a couple of others that I joined so I can have the same experience as my clients do in membership, but no more than 3 probably. And it's not forever. Everybody's up for review every year. So I'm looking at, am I doing the right things? Are they providing value? Has the leadership in an association turned over, and what used to be the Mean Girls Club is now, ooh, everybody's friendly, whatever it is. Things change. So don't write off or be in forever, but look every year when you're renewing your membership, and be prepared to make a 2 or 3 year commitment to an association. You don't wander in and flip on the cash. It took Carrie Ann a long time to build trust and relationships so that that could pay off. So that's my, in a nutshell, how many associations. What's your take, Carrie Ann?
Yeah, I would agree. Probably 3 is the max that anyone can actively participate in as a member. And then I would also advise, like, becoming a member is different than just attending an event. And most societies have a non-member rate, or you can be a guest for 1 or 2 events, a lunch or something like that. Definitely take advantage of attending events with that group before you commit to joining. And that way, if you're attending enough events, they're going to convince you to join and become an active member, because all these societies, even if they have paid staff support at a national level, are always looking for engaged volunteers. But it has to be something that you will line up with your goals, personal or professional goals. For opportunities when you're volunteering, it's always nice to look for something that might be like, for example, we have a treasurer at SAME Baltimore Post. All the posts have treasurers, and so it's somebody that has an affinity for, like, managing our scholarship fund, which deals with Merrill Lynch and investments. But our treasurer, she loves it, but she's an environmental engineer. That's not something she does in her day-to-day job. So it's something she's interested in and gets to do as a volunteer for the society. But that kind of role is pretty intensive. So becoming a member and then participating as an active member are really important, but definitely try on those groups before you commit to membership. And also, I think Judy mentioned it, corporate budgets are part of this. If your company is, joining all of these organizations, make sure that you've got a budget for it, and then a budget for the personnel to be participating in those events. So it might make sense just to be active as a participant and learn which ones are the right fit, and then go ahead and invest in membership, because it is an investment of your time and of your resources. So, corporately, you have to figure that out. What can you really sustain as a company, and what's going to make the most impact to you, either through goodwill and trust building and relationship building, or actually impacting your bottom line.
Exactly. And with figuring out what association is right, don't just go to the place where, oh, I'm going to go to the 8A association. Well, great. It's filled with 8As and other companies like you, but if meeting buyers is important, are your buyers showing up? Are your end users showing up? Not just, bless them, the small business specialists and the supplier diversity people from the primes. What do you want? And a couple of people asked in the chat, well, which associations should I join? Where are my buyers? Ask your federal buyers. If you could go to only one conference this year, which one would it be? What's the conference you wish somebody would let you go to? Why do you like it? It gives you a reason to talk to them about something. They'll tell you. Nobody ever asks them. Tom, any thoughts about choosing associations?
I guess the main thing I think is essentially one you just touched on, and that is that there are association chapters all over the country. And if you go to several of those, you'll quickly find, I think, the ones that you feel are the right fit for you. But if not, move on to another one. And as Judy said, AFCEA around here is great. There's 7 chapters here, I believe, on AFCEA. NCMA around the country,
National Contract Management Association.
right, is a tremendous organization, and oftentimes the the local agency people participate and are officers of that local chapter, and they have events. So you want to test a couple of different things. NDIA is good.
National Defense Industries Association, Association of Procurement Management, Proposal Management Professionals, APMP,
Right.
another one. Yeah.
Right.
But for sure, if you're not working with your Procurement Technical Assistance Center, then sometimes if you sit down and meet with your PTAC counselor, they can help you sort that out as well. Their help is free and they're in every state. So we've got a few minutes to wrap up. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you might want to just also think about where you are in your business. Like you mentioned the 8A Association, Judy. So if you're a new 8A and you want best practices around how you're building your business, like that might be a perfect location for you to be, instead of being in front of buyers all the time. but as you grow and evolve and your role changes, or, whatever your business is, one of the benefits of some societies, SAME is one, PMP or PMI, they give out PDHs for certifications, so if that's part of your membership goal, is to, help
PDH,
keep your,
professional development hours.
yeah. So if you have a license or certification and you need those to maintain that, there's a lot of facets into joining. It's not just about, it can depend on where you are in your role in your company, and where you are in what you need from those associations. So if you need, technical engineering skill sets, or best practices about your business, or you want to be in front of buyers, there's an organization that will help you meet those goals.
Wonderful. I have so many ideas and questions coming up about the last two topics, how mastering online events. And Sammy honestly had one of the best conferences I've ever been at, their online conference last year. And Tom, tips to be the go-to person in the room. I would love to have you back as part of another online event talking about these things. If I were to do that, just drop in the chat me. Who would love to come to that to explore both how to make the most of online in the future that's not going away, and how to go back into the big crazy world and remember how to not look like we're socialized by wolves. Honestly. So we covered a lot. We talked about how to maximize your return on investment from membership and events, which associations are right for you, how many you can and need to join, how to choose the right events, and what to do for better matchmaking results. We covered a truckload of stuff here. So tell me this. You showed up. What did you get for your hour? What one action do you commit to take, and by when, as a result of coming here? What are you going to do? I put it in the chat. Give us a sense of what bubbled up for you, what was valuable. And while we do that, um, I will offer some other resources for you. There are 4 keys that unlock federal wins. Understand what to do and say and ask with your federal buyers. Focus with confidence on the right people who buy what you do. Go narrow, not wide. Have a methodical, systematic way to build relationships with them. Have a plan. Use the plan. Take action consistently. If somebody could promise you 1% improvement a day for a whole year, would you take it? Tom, would you? You bet. Carrie Ann? Yeah, absolutely, says Adele. Yeah, no kidding. Stick with it. Summit Insight works with what we call our triple five companies. Companies that have been in business for more than 5 years, have more than 5 million in revenue, and more than 5 people in the company. If you've got 2 out of 3 of those, maybe we should talk. If you want to explore the Federal Business Intensive, our 8-week program that really gets you going, Heather's going to drop the link in the chat, and go right ahead and explore whether or not this might be a good fit for you. You can download the syllabus, see all the things that are involved, and go, maybe this could be my thing. We have more resources for you. We practice the art of human connection in the federal arena. If you're someone who's a great technical expert, you love what you do, but conversations with federal humans, ooh, do I have to? You know what? It's very, very human to struggle with that. I've had a ton of hard times trying to figure it out. Nobody should have to take as long as I have to figure it out. And so we bring together once a month 2 former federal contracting officers so that we can do live conversation practice, just as though that contracting officer were your buyer. Our former federal contracting officers, our Top Gun coaches, have seen it all. And so we do a live simulation. You got 5 minutes, kind of try out your stuff. You get a quick critique and move on and learn from somebody else. This is lets you get a little bit of a taste of the kind of extraordinary experience that we give our clients when we work with them. But whether you're participating in live simulation or want to be along for the ride, register. It's free. And we do those on the second Wednesdays of the month. The next one is April 14th. What can I ask at this season and not get into trouble when there's so much stuff going on? 5 people you need to meet, the players at all the layers. What do you do? What do you say? What do you ask? This is a free download. Go get the goodies. GovCon Personas Guide. It's the core of our players and layers methodology to make it easier to build the relationships that bring the wins. And finally, I mentioned earlier the kinds of things that Tom talked about that are important to show up smart. And already having done some background research at Matchmaking, we're going to show you where to find that. Federal data diving, how to find the gold in contract data. I'm going to be doing that on the last Thursday of the month, Thursday, April 24th. This session is also complimentary. The link is in the chat. Share it. We would love to have you along. It's just so much fun. That's it. If you're newer to federal contracting or looking to shape up your strategy, you can pick up all 7 steps to success in my book, Amazon #1 bestseller, Government Contracts Made Easier. That's because easy is fiction. And the book and the workbook are both ready for you to grab on Amazon. And there's even a link where you can get chapter 1 for free. That's a strategy chapter. Should I really be here? What's it going to take to be successful? Go grab it for free. That's my gift to you. So that being said, do either of you have a hard stop, or can we take any other questions for a few minutes? Yeah, if we've got other questions, drop them in the chat. I see a couple of folks have some. I know Sandra had one about researching. Are any of the panelists able to provide more information about using associations as a way to identify potential mentors? Tom, you talked about some mentor protege education, and Carrie Ann. Tom, you first, and Carrie Ann. What could you tell Sandra?
I think as far as mentors are concerned, certainly an association is one way to find them. Mentors are hard to find. There's no question about that. And what you want is somebody who will step up and actually help you. And that's one thing you can learn by meeting somebody in an association. If they're actively involved and take an interest in you, then you got a good candidate there. Otherwise, you want to spend some time seeing, if that agent, if that mentor or that company has mentored anybody else in the past, because oftentimes, people don't realize that mentoring it's a real commitment, and it's not necessarily directly involved in your outreach activity, but it could be a mentor to help with your human resources or your inventory management or a variety of things. So you want to find people that are willing to put in the time to make it worth their while and your while to do it. And then you have the advantage of bringing them into opportunities that they might not otherwise qualify for because they are either too large or maybe they're not in the government contracting, but you can help.
Carrie Ann, what's your thinking?
So I was thinking of that more in terms of an individual mentor, a one-on-one, with someone who wants to develop a career path or have a mentor that's not within their business. And if that's what you were asking too, in terms of a personal mentor, there are definitely associations that actually have formal mentoring programs where they do a matchmaking and then you meet with your mentor, one-on-one, via Zoom or, go to coffee, things like that, so that you can have somebody that will presumably is further along in their career than you are, that can help you navigate some of the, career changes that you will make over your time in business. So some organizations do have that, but just as Tom was saying, if you're looking for a business mentor, if you're looking for an individual mentor and you're part of an association that doesn't have a formal program, there's no reason that you still can't find one, because we're all about building those relationships. And SAME for me has been, and as some of my other societies have all provided mentors to me, none of them in a formal mentoring relationship, but there are folks that have been part of my career since I was brand new in the industry, that have helped me grow and helped me navigate some of the challenges that I was having or ideas I had to start my own business. All of those things have come from the various mentors that have guided me. But I've never done a formal relationship, but I think that there are some programs where they do it as a formal thing, and some are really successful. So you can find an organization that would have that in part of their programming.
Two thoughts. Know as well that if you belong to an association and they don't have a mentorship program, be the volunteer that starts one. The best way to change the future is to create it. The other thing to consider is if you're talking about mentor as in mentor protege. I remember having this conversation in 2006 in the afternoon, and he was tired on the, he said he was grouchy on the show floor of the government procurement conference. It was John Long, who was supplier diversity lead for a large prime contractor at the time. And I was doing my little interview with my flip camera when in the days before people from large primes had to go through public affairs to get permission to talk on video. Everybody was happy to be video. I flip the camera. Oh boy. And so I said, well, John, what should you say to somebody who wants to be your protege and mentor protege? He looked at me and said, give me your car keys. I said, what? Give me your car keys. Put your car keys right here. He said, you're not going to give me your car keys, are you? And no. I said, yeah, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I am just as likely to put you in my mentor protege program as you are to give me your car keys. Now, if I'm going to go and take on a protege, I want to know that they're going to have a hockey stick growth curve. I want them to go not just to $2 million. I want to see them go to $20 million. I want to see them go to $200 million. I want to know that I'm going to get a good return on our company's investment. So I want to have subcontracted, having them as a subcontractor, a teaming partner, that they're really going to be worth my investment. So how about that, sports fans? Something else to think about, different perspective. All right. And any other questions? I hope that answered your questions a little bit, Sandra. We got, if you got, and thanks, Sandra. Let's see here. Steve says my action is going to follow up and review associations and find at least one to visit and introduce myself to them in the next month. Great. Any other questions? Lisa's going to go and review potential organizations to get involved with. And let's see here. Jerry says she's researching associations that may be applicable. Look for chapters close to home. If you're in Northern Virginia or Maryland, you are in a really fortunate position. A lot of the time you've got very active, well-connected chapters there, but go local. Whatever's happening in your local community, it can be really, really valuable. So Jerry, there's some strong Sami chapters in the Southwest. You're in Arkansas. Some of my best friends, etc. And I've forgotten what it is that you do. Those of you who are involved in anything to do with disaster response and recovery, and certainly lots of people in Sami are involved in construction or renovation. Apparently, we are in for a record hurricane season. So if you have not yet, don't ambulance chase. If you haven't yet gone and warmed up your relationships and gotten on teams and lists for disaster response, hurricane season is going to be worse than ever, and it is already starting to stir up. So get your act together. All right. Anybody else? Any final questions? Anything else you need to say to be complete? I would love to work with you and your team. Carrie Ann, final thoughts or comments?
I was just going to put it in the chat, but thank you for the opportunity. I was going to suggest that in this, while things are still virtual, take advantage of that opportunity to attend events anywhere. We have folks at my company that are just bouncing around the country, going to Arizona and North Carolina, and all from the comfort of her living room. So I would encourage you, as you're exploring opportunities with different associations, take advantage of that, expand your footprint, and get to know some of these organizations in the virtual platform. And then you can make the investment when we get back to real life events.
Exactly right. Tom, closing thoughts?
Yeah, and that, in that process, by the way, you may well learn about an association or a series that you find very useful and realize that, they've got a chapter in Baltimore or Silver Spring or someplace closer to you that you are now, kind of half plugged into. You already got the lingo down. All you have to do is find them and join in their activities.
Wonderful. A couple of people have been asking, hey, what about that disaster response thing? I'm going to tell you something. All right. Yeah. I want you to drop if you are interested in details about the structure of disaster response, how that works in general, the concepts, do's and don'ts. I have something in the vault that I don't share most of the time, and I will follow up with you and tell you what it might be, what you do to get your hands on. Just drop the word DR in the chat. drop the words DR in the chat, and I can follow up with you and see whether or not I've got something that can help you. Okay. Sandra, you said yes. Jerry says yes. Let's see our DR people for disaster response. And if there's something I have a little bit of stuff that may be useful for you. Will, awesome. All right.
Yeah, there are some
Uh,
registers to make sure you're on too. I don't know if they're in the material you have, Judy, but that's certainly very important.
mhm. Great. So Tom is also another great resource for you as well. Tom clearly knows his way around the patch on disaster response. FEMA has an enormous registration form, and you have to make sure that it's FEMA's registration form and not somebody who, let's say, is not FEMA. There's stuff going on out there. So if you're not sure at all, for goodness sake, just get in touch with me. You know where to find me. And I'm so grateful that you decided to spend time with us today. So stay in touch, and we'll see you next time. I'm here for you. Thanks, folks. Thank you, Heather. Take care. Bye bye.